Carlos. Carlos, good to see you again, Carlos. Good to see you. What is new?
Wait.
I've heard something about the bankers. What have you done to the bankers?
What does the world have too much of?
Bankers.
Right. What does the world have the second most of?
Lawyers.
What is the third?
Politicians.
No, this currency. There's kind of bills and nickels and quarters, pesos, boogie junk money. What the Chinese call it?
It's the bankers.
Don't they call it the
egg? The egg.
Yes.
Uneg.
We'll get rid of it all. You've heard some of this bantering around this Bitcoin.
Yes, of course. Well,
what scares the banks most about Bitcoin?
They can't print money anymore.
No, and they cannot tie up. They can't tie us up with their control.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
What have you done?
I've taken control of the Bitcoin industry, and I now control the currency as we see it, because it is my duty to let you know.
That is beautiful. That means that the commerce class is doomed. No more bankers. No more commerce class. No. Beautiful. That is Carlos. You are great. Again. Carlos the Great.
Again.
Carlos the Great.
Mr. Turtle, you've written the most brilliant book of maxims, moralities the world has ever seen, and yet you keep them all under your shell. What's going on? How can we get you into our series, Mr. Turtle? What do you have to say? I know you were the Virgin Mary and you ran off stage one time, but that's no excuse. Just 10 maxims. The world is waiting, Mr. Turtle. The world is waiting. Come on, do something.
So, Turtle, I found out something new. That you just have to know. That the explanation for the expansion of the universe is that everything that is not mass, that is stars, elements, and so forth, is a fluid that is negative mass. So let's hear what Turtle, it explains a lot of things. It explains the halos around the galaxies. It explains the halos around the filaments connecting the galaxies. It explains the expansion of the universe, because instead of mass attracting, they repel. And so they can never form into atoms. It's only the gravity that can make an atom. So we're 5% lucky, I would say. What do you think, Turtle?
What is your platform regarding health insurance?
Well, I think it's a right. Everyone should have it. It's a matter of convincing the people who it doesn't really affect if it goes away. But, but if we can get them out, then change their minds, and I think we can get it to everyone.
What do you think, Turtle?
Sounds tragic.
Tragic.
The funny thing about modern physicists, they think universe to be explained next week.
Next week.
They can't even explain how cat purrs.
What it tells me is that we're, like I said, very lucky that somehow this repulsive force had its own repulsive force, which is a gravity force, because otherwise there'd be no matter at all, unless the original anti-gravity force had been repelled by a true gravity force.
The main point of modern physics is proof no one has a clue what's going on. As it's obvious, there are several contradictions. How 30 years ago they said one maybe black hole, and then 20 years ago maybe one black hole per galaxy. Now in every street corner.
Yes, every street corner. In fact,
where laws of physics break down.
There may be
very peculiar.
Oh, is it at the street corner where the laws of physics break down?
Exactly. Could be in the pharmacies.
At the pharmacy.
Carlos. Right.
We meet again. And then we meet again.
Unfortunately, we have things to discuss about the most recent efforts to transport and to glean more information from the cosmos.
Yes.
Of course, last evening, the attempted meeting of the Roddenberry 9 was subverted. What do you know of it?
I know nothing. I know nothing. Maybe nothing. But I suspect that it might have been some new elements. That number 7 is trying to puff it up like some corporation.
The best lamb I ever had was today at lunch. But we're going to talk about a different lamb. This is Crowley's Emanation. This is the oval-headed alien. It played as part of a great invocation. On the mountaintop in Greece, he saw the helicopter fly in over the Azure Mountains and the Azure Sea. A finch flew by, a goldfinch from left to right, which he counted on as being a lucky sign as the helicopter landed in the field. The blue hearts on the side of the helicopter were an unusual symbol. It looked like a symbol of peace, but it wouldn't be.
For our closing album for the night, we're going to switch it up again with a little bit of classical music for you guys. This is Jakob Gimpel interpreting Beethoven, Piano Concerto No. 4. This is DJ Art. I'm going to be signing off tonight with the Jakob Gimpel you're now hearing. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'm here every Thursday night from 9 till midnight. This is DJ Art saying good night from Rutgers. We're out.
told it so. Let go but slow. Black hole campus candle are lost in the snow. That you were my daughter.
Turbulence. Given a little height and a little distance, Frank still couldn't figure out how things went down. What really stuck out in his mind was the sofa. Nice Kensington house. Great view of the sunset. We have to replace the sofa. Color's not right. Okay. So they worried that line for months. Looked here and there. Finally, she found the Italian sofa she wanted. Kind of rum, mocha, light brown. First thing she did was to cover it with 3 Indian blankets. Trendy. Okay. Frank could live with that for a while. At a certain point, he came into the house, and the sofa was covered in a form-fitting plastic cover. "Desi, what is going on?" And she said, "It's what everybody does." Frank still loved her and thought she loved him. She was an operator. She was an agent, a deep agent. But now she's acting like an old housewife. Here, there, everywhere, the aquamarine towels. Be sure to pay the telephone bill. Let's get that new lawnmower. Let's get that lawn mowed. Why? Well, everybody. You realize the grip, the power of the new American middle-class ideology. Only a few have the ability or interest to escape it. It's always been the enemy, never made any sense, and still doesn't make any sense. And yes, of course, it wasn't just over the sofa. That was big and easy to remember. It was all the social events, all those things that go along with being middle class. Where to place the candle on the table, leaving a 14% tip everywhere. The gossip from the families, who's being born, who's dying, who's sick. It was like 1,000 little woodpeckers pounding on his skull. Frank still loved Essie, and they were married. Achille Cardoza paid for the wedding, of course. Of course. But Frank just needed that space, needed to get away. So he called Rick and the client that he was preparing for the PGA Tour with the golf strategy. He was a +1, but he still thought he could just play birdie. It doesn't happen that way. The tougher and tougher it gets. Frank stayed with Rick for a while, financial advisor, Transamerica, big pad there in Pacific Heights, parties like the old days. He would talk to Desi on the phone from time to time. They were talking about maybe getting back together. It felt like she was overcompensating for all those years. But Frank still couldn't stand it. It reminded him too much of a childhood, too much of why he went into exile in the first place. And this is not all. Nixon was not an aberration. There will be a worse Nixon coming down the pike. America is not these pockets of hippies and intellectuals and musicians and artists. Absolutely not. It's very conservative. They love to slaughter the black sheep, demonize them and slaughter them. Maybe Frank needs a little more space. Why Miami? I know, but I can't tell you. It's something pretty deep and also something that's pretty superficial. I'm going to Miami. Oh yeah, okay. That's done. Seatbelts fastened? Gotcha. A little turbulence? Landing in Miami, 45 minutes.
This is an interesting hypothesis, if it can be proven. Very interesting. That the whole universe is a fluid that carries a few pebbles, like super galaxies, and, you know, along with the flow somehow.
Instead of a string.
Instead of a string. Oh my goodness, you are really up to your physics there, Turtle.
The basic problem of physics, you know, is well known. It's problem of a particle wave paradox, which is Zeno's paradox.
Okay. Plenty of paradoxes.
How many of the other ones can fall into that? Turtle not.
I mean, one of the main mysteries is they claim that in a Big Bang that there should have been the same amount of matter and antimatter, and they should have all there has to be some asymmetry, that there's some actual matter left. My personal philosophy, I would say that collisions, I mean, the desire of the universe not to repel, but to collide, if you want to call it, it could be love, you know, there could be a collision of affection. Empedocles, one of my favorite poets, Empedocles, would say it's love or hate, and the hate repels and the love attracts.
Tells you how far we got.
Is there anything you can think of adding? Any element that wasn't in the first round? Yeah, at some point. Well, we've got to replace this sofa. What's wrong with the sofa? Color's not right. Well, Turbulence. Finally, she found the Italian sofa that she wanted. Mocha, light brown. First thing she did was to cover it with 3 Indian blankets. At some point, I came into the house and in a form-fitting plastic cover. I said, Tessie, what is going on? And she said, it's what everybody does. Aquamarine towels and be sure to pay the bills. Let's get that lawn mowed. Let's get that lawn mowed. Well, Turbulence. And yes, of course it wasn't just a sofa. The sofa was big and easy to remember. It was, I mean, just all those things that go along with being middle class. The gossip from the families, who's being born, who's dying, who's sick. And Des and I talked. I mean, we talked on the phone, and we were talking about maybe, you know, getting back together. Still, I couldn't stand it. It reminded me too much of a childhood. So, and too much of why I went to exile. Well, Turbulence. Why Miami? Well, I know, but I can't tell you. It's something pretty deep and also something that's pretty superficial, but I'm going to Miami and seatbelts, gotcha. Okay, a little turbulence, 45 minutes, be landing in Miami. Turbulence, 45 minutes. Turbulence. A little turbulence. Turbulence. Seatbelts, gotcha. Okay, a little turbulence. 45 minutes, a little turbulence, be landing in Miami.
it well, my precious darling. It's time for you to go. See my eyes go right will fall for tears. Girl, you know that I still love you. Please don't say it's not too late. Save the love that's tearing us apart. Oh, don't say it's not too late, 'cause that's not bound, she won't wait. By morning, I'll be gone forever tomorrow. Though the distance and the years will help us both forget the truth. My heart will ache for you, my darling, till I die. Forget them tears. My heart will ache for you, my darling, till I die. Well, farewell, my precious darling. It's time for you to go. I see your eyes could cry 1,000 tears. Oh, tears. Oh, then you start to live. Help us both forget the truth. My heart will ache for you, my darling, till I die. Here I go! The distance on the air will help us both forget the tears. My heart will ache for you, my darling, till I die. Fuck you again.
So you got that feeling, you know, like that hip turn, right? I mean, you know, like.
What are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about
Disco?
your golf swing. You know, you got to turn. You know, now if you go too fast, you're going to hook for sure.
Huh.
So you got to just kind of, you know, time it. So you just, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Like that. But if you just do this, you're asking for trouble. Because then you just got to swing with your arms and, you know.
Yeah.
But you get those legs in the lower, so
Sure.
But if you go too fast, you're gonna hook to the left. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know.
You might have done that one time. I think that's
I-
something to the left.
I'm kind of like Ben Hogan. I hit a fade because I've been fighting a hook.
Oh.
That's the way it goes.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
It looked like a symbol of peace, but it wouldn't be. The beetle of Kefra, the symbol of death, was emblazoned on her forehead as she stepped out of the helicopter. A regal dragon hawk of a woman, powerful. And she had on her belt a combination of odd trinkets and embellishments that fairly caught my eyes, so as I couldn't take my eyes off of them. I thought I'd recognize them in some way. They almost slithered like snakes off her belt. And the power in her eye, and she looked straight at me, and I passed out. I woke up blindfolded, but paragliding into space. I freed my hand and tore the blindfold off, and I had been released. I looked back over my shoulder. I had been pushed off a high precipice and was now gliding over what looked to be the Mediterranean without a lot of education in flying such a craft. This was like reading fucking Chinese writing. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, you know. And I thought, before I decided to take control of it, of those blue hearts. And thus ends 9587.
advance of science doesn't really change the reality of the world. It's just our interpretation of the reality, our language of the world, perhaps. Every turtle would know. I mean, turtles have been around a long time. I saw in a very similar source that they actually manipulate their genes to live long.
230 million years.
Yes, you are very old, turtle. You've been manipulating your genes a long time. I mean, humans live like a butterfly's life compared to a turtle.
Einstein, of course, say time is illusion.
Well, time is...
My wife liked that line. He said that those of us who believe in physics know that time is an illusion.
Well, it's also a negative illusion. I mean, it goes backwards, presumably. There's no reason why it should go in one direction.
He got to negative illusion now.
Yeah.
It's too complicated for turtle.
Well, I mean, in a certain sense, it's an imbalance, but it's also a harmony. You know, going back, it's the collisions that matter. The collision, I mean, a star collapses or combines with another star. It creates all this dust, and we come from this dust, from the collisions. If it was all repulsion, we wouldn't be here.
He not understand his cat, but he understand you. He not understand universe, but he understand people around him.
That's another secret of turtles' longevity, is being able to mind read those around you.
Oh, no.
No.
Just long experience.
Ah, yes.
I've
heard of those. Yes, asshole. Well, what is the solution, Carlos? What is the solution?
The solution is to cut out the bad piece of cheese. Do you know what I mean?
I catch your drift. I think we need somehow to take control of the Rotten Barrel 9 back in our hands. Yes, number 7 has proven to be disloyal.
There's a function of leadership that gives the codicil of extraction and permanent removal. And I enact this now on number 7.
Goodbye, 7.